"Take me, I'll be your blanket," said the alien fugitive woman. HFY read it. The station called Greyloop 9 floated quietly at the edge of human-controlled space. It was not an important place. Big ships did not stop there. Powerful people did not live there. Greyloop 9 existed to do small jobs that kept the galaxy moving: refueling, repairs, storage, and rest. Most species ignored it. That was why Elias liked it. Elias was human, average in every way. Average height, average strength, average face. He worked as a maintenance technician, fixing heaters, clearing vents, and repairing old power lines that most advanced species would have replaced long ago. Humans, however, believed in fixing things instead of throwing them away. Elias lived alone in a small cabin near the lower decks. His room was warm, cluttered, and quiet. Extra blankets lay folded in one corner. A small heater hummed near his bed. The walls were decorated with old photos of Earth landscapes: snowy mountains, forests, oceans. Elias liked warmth, but he liked the idea of cold too. It made warmth feel earned. That night, Greyloop 9 experienced a partial power failure. Lights dimmed across the lower maintenance levels. Alarms did not sound. It was a minor issue, the kind that happened once every few months. Elias grabbed his tool kit and jacket and headed down the narrow corridors toward the thermal storage sector. The air grew colder as he walked. His breath fogged slightly. Elias did not mind. Humans had lived in cold places long before space stations existed. When he reached the storage bay, his scanner showed abnormal heat readings. That was strange. Thermal storage units were meant to stay cold, very cold, cold enough to preserve sensitive materials. Heat inside one of those units meant something was wrong. Elias unlocked the panel and opened the heavy door. Inside, between stacked insulation crates, something moved. Elias froze. Slowly, a figure crawled forward. Tall, thin, and wrapped in torn fabric that shimmered faintly in the low light. Her skin was pale blue, almost translucent, and small crystals ran along her arms and neck like frozen tears. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with fear. She collapsed at his feet. Her body shook violently. The temperature warning on Elias' wrist device flashed red. She was freezing to death. "Hey," Elias said softly, raising his hands. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The alien woman struggled to lift her head. Her lips trembled. She spoke in broken galactic common, each word forced out with effort. "Please," she whispered, "take me." Elias frowned, confused. "What?" She crawled closer, her hands weak. Her voice dropped to a desperate murmur. "I will keep you warm. I will be your blanket, just please." Elias stared at her. In all his years on Greyloop 9, he had dealt with broken machines, leaking pipes, and stubborn wiring. He had never dealt with an alien fugitive offering herself as bedding. "Okay," he said quickly. "Stop talking. You're losing heat." He shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. Her skin was icy, colder than anything he had ever touched. She flinched at the warmth, then leaned into it instinctively. Elias activated his communicator, then paused. Protocol said he should report this. The station had clear rules about unauthorized beings, but the way she shook, the way fear lived in her eyes, made the rules feel very small. He made a choice. Elias shut the storage unit door and guided her down the corridor toward his quarters. He avoided cameras, using maintenance access routes he knew by heart. Greyloop 9 was old, and humans had built it with many hidden paths. Once inside his cabin, Elias sealed the door and turned the heater to maximum. The alien woman collapsed onto the bed, curling in on herself. Elias grabbed every blanket he owned and layered them over her. Slowly, the shaking eased. She looked up at him, eyes wide with confusion. "You are not claiming me?" she asked. Elias blinked. "Claiming you? Yes, protection requires ownership." Elias shook his head. "No. You're just cold." She did not understand that answer. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the heater. Her breathing steadied. Color returned faintly to her skin. "My name is Seelan," she said quietly. "I'm Elias." She studied him as if expecting something more. An order, a demand, a threat. None came. "You are human," she said. "Last time I checked." Her eyes flickered with something like disbelief. "Humans are known." Elias raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For enduring environments others cannot," she replied. "For emotional attachment that defies logic, for refusing efficiency." Elias smiled slightly. "Sounds about right." Seelan shifted under the blankets. "If they find me here, you will be punished." "Who?" Elias asked. "The authority of preservation," she said. "They regulate species usefulness. My kind produces heat efficiently. We are assigned, transported, stored." Elias' smile faded. "You escaped?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "but I cannot survive alone." "I thought humans might trade shelter for warmth." She hesitated, then added, "I did not expect kindness." Elias leaned back against the wall. "The galaxy doesn't know us very well." A faint alert chimed on his wrist. Station-wide scan scheduled. External ships docking. Seelan noticed his expression change. "They are coming," she whispered. Elias looked at her, then at the blankets, then at the walls of his small, warm room. "Then we'll make you invisible," he said. "How?" Elias shrugged. "Humans are very good at hiding things in plain sight." Seelan did not know it yet, but that small room, filled with blankets, warmth, and an ordinary human, was about to become the first quiet act of a rebellion the galaxy would never forget. The scan ships arrived quietly. They did not announce themselves with alarms or threats. The authority of preservation preferred silence. Silence made people nervous. Silence made them cooperate. Greyloop 9 systems flickered as long-range scanners swept through the station. Heat signatures, movement patterns, biological markers, everything was measured, catalogued, judged. Inside his cabin, Elias felt the change before any alert appeared. The heater dimmed for a second, then returned to normal. His wrist device buzzed with a low-priority notice. "External inspection in progress. Please remain in assigned areas." Elias sighed. "Right on time." Seelan lay on his bed, wrapped in blankets. Her skin had warmed slightly, shifting from pale blue to a softer shade. She watched Elias with wide, alert eyes. "They will see me," she said quietly. "Your technology is old." Elias nodded. "Yeah, that's the good part." He moved calmly, not rushing. Panic made mistakes. Humans had learned that long ago. He pulled open a floor panel near the wall, revealing a narrow maintenance crawlspace. Inside were power cables, insulation foam, and emergency thermal pads. "This station leaks heat everywhere," Elias said. "Most species hate that. Humans just wear sweaters." He handed Seelan a small thermal pad. "Hold this against your chest. It'll keep your temperature stable without showing up as a strong heat source." She took it carefully. "You are risking much for me." Elias shrugged. "I fix broken things. You looked broken." That answer confused her again. She climbed into the crawlspace, curling her body carefully between cables. Elias closed the panel, then scattered blankets and tools over it. To scanners, it would look like clutter and wasted warmth. Very human, very unimportant. The first patrol passed without stopping. Minutes later, a message appeared on the station network. Authority personnel requesting voluntary cooperation. No penalties for compliance. Elias snorted softly. "That's a lie." He sat on his chair, pretending to check maintenance logs. His heart beat faster, but his face stayed calm. A knock came at the door. Elias opened it to find a tall, angular being wearing a smooth white uniform. Its face was expressionless, eyes artificial and unblinking. "Human technician Elias Grant," it said. "You are assigned to this sector." "That's me," Elias replied. "We are tracking a thermal anomaly," the officer continued. "You have access to restricted areas." "I fix heaters," Elias said. "Anomalies come with the job." The officer's eyes glowed faintly. "May we scan your quarters?" Elias stepped aside. "Sure." The officer entered. Its scanner swept the room. It paused briefly near the floor panel, then moved on. The clutter helped. Extra blankets, personal heaters, old wiring, all of it created noise in the scan. Inefficient. Wasteful human. The officer turned back toward Elias. No irregularities detected, it said. Remain compliant. Always, Elias replied. The officer left. Elias locked the door and leaned against it, breathing out slowly. Inside the crawlspace, Seelan held herself still, barely daring to breathe. Her species had been taught that humans were unpredictable and emotionally unstable. What she saw instead was controlled calm and quiet defiance. After an hour, Elias opened the panel. "You're clear for now," he said. She emerged slowly, blinking in the warm light. "Why did they not see me?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because they think humans don't matter." Seelan sat on the bed, pulling the blankets closer. "The authority believes efficiency is truth," she said. "Anything inefficient is dismissed." "Works for us," Elias replied. Over the next few days, the scans continued. Authority officers walked the halls. Ships docked and undocked. Tension filled the station like static. And yet, Seelan remained hidden. Not because of advanced technology, but because of people. A human engineer rerouted power to Elias' sector, claiming the heaters were unstable. A supply worker delivered extra blankets without asking why. A station medic quietly adjusted environmental readings, smoothing out temperature spikes. None of them knew the full story. Elias did not tell them. He did not need to. Humans helped when something felt wrong. That instinct confused most species. It confused Seelan even more. One evening, as the station dimmed into its artificial night cycle, Seelan sat cross-legged on the floor, watching Elias repair a small fan. "You do not ask what I can give you," she said. Elias glanced up. "Should I?" "In my culture," she replied, "shelter is exchanged for service. Warmth is earned." Elias tightened a screw. "That sounds exhausting." She tilted her head. "You offer warmth freely." "Yeah," Elias said. "We learned early that sharing heat keeps everyone alive longer." She thought about that. Her species generated heat naturally, but it was controlled, rationed, owned. "You are colder than many species," she said. "Yet you survive." "We adapt," Elias said simply. Seelan watched him work, noticing the small things, how he hummed quietly, how he talked to machines like they could hear him, how he always checked the heater before sleeping, not just for himself, but for her. That night, the temperature dropped unexpectedly. A station-wide fluctuation caused heaters to fail briefly. Seelan woke with a sharp gasp. Cold crept into her limbs. Before fear could take hold, Elias was there. He wrapped her in his arms and blankets without thinking, his body instinctively sharing warmth. She stiffened, then relaxed. Her heat stabilized. She realized something then. Humans were not strong because they dominated environments. They were strong because they refused to face them alone. The next morning, an announcement echoed through the station. Authority operations concluded. Fugitive not located. Investigation suspended. Relief spread quietly through Grey Loop 9. Seelan stood near the viewport, watching the authority ship pull away. "They will return," she said. "Maybe," Elias replied. "But next time they won't be so welcome." She turned to him. "I am changing." Elias smiled. "Happens to the best of us." She placed a hand over her chest, feeling steady warmth, not from obligation but from choice. For the first time since her escape, Seelan felt something new. She felt safe. And somewhere far beyond Grey Loop 9, the galaxy continued to underestimate humanity, unaware that a quiet shift had already begun. Life on Grey Loop 9 slowly returned to normal, but something had changed beneath the quiet routines. The authority ships were gone, yet their shadow remained. Everyone felt it. The station corridors seemed a little colder, the lights a little dimmer, even when systems said everything was fine. For most species, that feeling would have meant fear and obedience. For humans, it meant preparation. Elias noticed it first in small ways. Extra maintenance requests appeared in his queue, heaters checked twice, vents recalibrated, power lines rerouted just in case. None of it was official. None of it was ordered. It was instinct. Seelan watched this quiet movement with growing amazement. Humans spoke little about danger, yet acted as if they all understood it. They did not gather in secret meetings. They did not make speeches. They simply adjusted their routines, helping one another without needing permission. She remained in Elia's quarters but no longer hidden in fear. During low-traffic hours, she moved through maintenance corridors, learning the station's rhythm. Humans greeted her with nods and small smiles. No one asked what species she was. No one demanded explanation. One day, as Elias repaired a wall console, Seelan asked the question that had been forming in her thoughts. "Why do they help me?" she asked softly. "They do not know my value." Elias wiped his hands on a cloth. "That's the thing, we don't measure people like that. In the wider galaxy," she said, "value is survival." Elias looked at her. "For us, survival is community." That word stayed with her, community. In her species' history, community meant assigned clusters, thermal quotas, monitored interactions. It was controlled warmth, never shared freely. Here, warmth was everywhere. A human cook left extra hot meals near Elias' door without comment. A technician adjusted environmental buffers so certain corridors stayed warmer longer. A medic quietly altered station logs, classifying Seelan's presence as a localized thermal anomaly caused by human habitation. Humans did not lie loudly. They buried truth under kindness and paperwork. Seelan began helping where she could. Her species was sensitive to energy flow. She could feel when heaters were about to fail, when power lines were stressed. She guided Elias to problems before alarms triggered. "You are useful," Elias said once, smiling. She stiffened slightly. Old instincts flared. Then he added, "Not because you have to be, because you want to help." The tension eased. For the first time in her life, usefulness did not feel like a chain. Days passed, then weeks. The authority did not return, but messages from beyond the station began to change. News reports spoke of humans questioning preservation policies. Legal inquiries appeared. Diplomatic discussions formed around words like sentience, autonomy, and consent. Humans talked. They always talked. Seelan listened as Elias watched a broadcast in his quarters. A human representative stood calmly before a council of alien officials, asking simple questions. "If a species can think, choose, and suffer," the representative said, "why is it owned?" The council had no easy answer. Seelan felt something tighten in her chest, hope sharp and frightening. "Is this because of me?" she asked quietly. Elias shook his head. "No, you're just the reminder." That night the station experienced another temperature fluctuation. Not an accident this time. Seelan felt it immediately. The warmth drained faster than usual, like something was pulling energy away. "This is not normal," she said. Elias checked his wrist device. Readings dipped sharply. Someone's overriding systems. A station-wide message followed. "External audit in progress. Environmental controls temporarily restricted." Seelan's breath quickened. "They are testing you." Elias nodded. "Yeah, seeing how we react." The temperature continued to drop. In many parts of the station, non-human residents retreated to insulated zones. Humans did the opposite. They opened doors. They shared space. Elias opened his quarters to two human workers whose heating units had failed. Blankets were stacked higher. Bodies sat closer together. Laughter replaced tension. Seelan watched, stunned. "You will weaken yourselves," she said. Elias shook his head. "We'll be fine." And they were. Humans ran warm when they needed to. Their bodies adjusted. Their spirits rose when shared. The audit ended hours later. Systems returned to normal. No panic, no disorder, just proof. The next day, a message arrived from the authority, cold, formal, and carefully worded. Human stations demonstrate inefficient but resilient survival patterns. Further evaluation pending. Seelan understood the hidden meaning. The authority was uneasy. That evening she sat beside Elias, wrapped in a blanket watching stars drift past the viewport. "If they take me," she said, "will you fight?" Elias considered the question. "Humans don't like fighting," he said. "We prefer not to lose." She studied him. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said slowly, "that we don't win by force. We win by making the rules change." Seelan leaned back, feeling the steady warmth of the station, of the people inside it. She realized something important then. The authority feared humans not because they were strong, but because they were contagious. Kindness spread. Courage spread. Defiance spread quietly, like heat through shared space. Seelan had once offered herself as a blanket to survive. Now she understood. Humans did not take warmth. They became it. And the galaxy was beginning to feel the change. The message arrived without warning. It did not come from the authority of preservation, nor from any military force. It came from the Galactic Council itself, marked with a rare priority seal that made every system on Greyloop 9 pause for half a second before continuing. Elias was in the middle of repairing a thermal regulator when his wrist device vibrated. Mandatory station-wide address. Attendance required. Across Greyloop 9, humans and non-humans alike stopped what they were doing. Screens flickered to life in corridors, work bays, and living quarters. Seelan stood beside Elias, her expression calm but alert. She could feel the shift in energy before words were spoken. The image resolved into a wide council chamber. Dozens of species sat in curved tiers. At the center stood a human woman, older, steady, her posture relaxed in a way that unsettled the council more than aggression ever could. "Citizens of Greyloop 9, she began, her voice clear, "and citizens of the wider galaxy." Elias recognized her from earlier broadcasts. Ambassador Hale, known for asking uncomfortable questions and waiting patiently for answers. "We are here to conclude a review," Hale continued, "into the treatment of sentient thermal-adaptive species under Preservation Authority jurisdiction." Seelan's breath caught. "The findings are simple," Hale said. "These beings are sentient, they think, they choose, they feel fear, hope, and attachment. That makes them people." A low murmur spread through the chamber. "For generations," Hale went on, "efficiency was used as an excuse to deny autonomy. Humans recognize this pattern, we have lived it." The camera shifted. Data panels appeared, records, testimonies, quiet evidence gathered over time. No shouting, no threats, just facts. "The Council has voted," Hale said. "Effective immediately, thermal-adaptive species are recognized as free sentient beings. Ownership, assignment, and storage are prohibited." Silence fell. Then, across Greyloop 9, people exhaled. Seelan felt her knees weaken. Elias steadied her without thinking. "You are free," he whispered. The broadcast continued. "As part of this ruling," Hale said, "any individual currently under threat is granted provisional asylum. Greyloop 9 has been identified as a sanctuary station under human protection." The council chamber buzzed with quiet unrest. No one argued. They had learned by now that humans did not retreat once they decided something was right. The broadcast ended. For a moment, the station was completely still. Then life resumed, not with celebration but with gentle relief. Humans returned to work. Systems hummed. Doors opened. The station felt warmer, even though the temperature had not changed. Seelan sat on Elias' bed, hands folded, staring at the floor. "I do not know how to live without being claimed," she said softly. Elias sat beside her. "Most of us don't at first." Days followed as representatives arrived, not enforcers but diplomats and observers. They expected tension. They found cooperation. Seelan chose to speak. Not as a victim, as a witness. She described her people's lives in simple words, how warmth was measured, how choice was removed, how fear was normalized. She did not accuse, she explained. That was enough. Other species listened. Some looked away. Some asked questions. Some quietly changed their policies before humans could ask. Greyloop 9 became something new, not a fortress, a home. Seelan stayed, she could have left. Offers came, safe worlds, research centers, protected habitats. She declined them all. She chose Greyloop 9. She worked alongside Elias, helping maintain systems, teaching humans how to read subtle energy flows. In return, humans taught her about music, stories, and the strange joy of shared silence. At night, they sat near the viewport, wrapped in blankets, watching stars drift by. Once she smiled and said, "I said I would be your blanket," Elias laughed. "You still are." But now it was a joke, a choice, not a plea. Word spread through the galaxy. Humans were not conquerors, they were worse. They were neighbors. Species began requesting human mediation. Human stations became neutral ground. Conflicts softened where humans were present, not because they enforced peace, but because they modeled it. The authority of preservation dissolved quietly. No rebellion, no collapse, just irrelevance. Their rules no longer fit a galaxy that had felt shared warmth. Years later, a young alien child asked Seelan a question during a station tour. "Why do humans protect others?" the child asked. Seelan looked at Elias, older now, still repairing heaters. "Because," she said, "they know what it means to be cold." The child thought about that. Greyloop 9 continued drifting at the edge of space, still unimportant by most measures. But in quiet moments, in shared rooms, in blankets offered without condition, something powerful lived there. Humanity had not saved the galaxy. They had simply refused to let anyone freeze alone, and somehow that had been enough.